We're past the 100-day mark in Donald Trump's presidency, but questions over conflicts of interest, ethics concerns, and the swampiness of Washington still haunt his administration. One of the latest developments involves former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski and how close he and his new firm may be to the Trump administration. Politico chief investigative reporter Ken Vogel reports that even though Mr. Lewandowski says he's not a lobbyist, there are documents to suggest his firm is offering access to the president. And Ken Vogel joins me now. So, Ken, what is Corey Lewandowski's firm, and why is it raising eyebrows among ethics watchdogs?
Well, Corey Lewandowski actually announced that he was starting a lobbying firm before Donald Trump was even inaugurated as president, and he said that he wouldn't be lobbying, but people at the firm would be. This firm is called Avenue Strategies. They boast about Avenue, so named because it's on Pennsylvania Avenue, just a block from the White House, a none too subtle sort of connection to the access that they are advertising to clients. Now, what we discovered was that they have created at least one other firm that was not previously disclosed that is specifically geared towards recruiting international clients, mostly foreign politicians in Eastern Europe. And what this firm is telling these politicians is that Corey's firm can get them meetings with Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and other senior administration officials. That raised a lot of eyebrows, not just with us and ethics watchdogs, but even within the White House, where there are concerns that some of these stories about access and about the failure to drain the swamp are becoming a drag on Donald Trump's presidency.
Well, has Corey Lewandowski said why he hasn't registered as a lobbyist?
Yeah, so what Corey says and what the firm says, actually, Corey refused to talk to us for this story, but his partner in both of these firms, Avenue Strategies and this new one that we discovered, a guy by the name of Barry Bennett, also worked for the Trump campaign. What he tells us is that most of what the firm does is not lobbying. Most of what they do is advising clients and prospective clients on sort of how to navigate Trump's Washington, or even how to do public affairs and public relations, and that Corey, and to the extent that they are involved in lobbying on behalf of some of the clients, Corey does not do that. What Corey does is exclusively on the public relations and the advisory side. However, what we found both in this document and in our interviews with clients and people who have heard Corey and this firm's pitch sessions is that Corey promises that he, in fact, will use his access to Donald Trump to help out these clients. Whether he's actually delivering on that or not would be the question to ask vis-a-vis whether he is running afoul of these lobbying registration requirements, but he certainly seems to be pushing the limit of them.
Well, Ken, what are your sources telling you about Lewandowski's relationship with the president now?
Lewandowski continues to have a very close relationship with Donald Trump. He brags that he can get him on the phone almost any time without going through a gatekeeper. We found that to be the case. Additionally, he's been in the Oval Office several times since Trump was inaugurated. On his first visit in there, he ended up posing for pictures with Donald Trump behind the desk in the Oval Office and requesting multiple copies of those pictures. Those pictures have yet to turn up on the website of Avenue Strategies, but the website does very much stress Donald Trump, Corey Lewandowski's connections to the president. I wouldn't be surprised him using those photos in his marketing materials going forward.
Well, Ken, you touched on this a moment ago. Are people in the administration comfortable with Lewandowski saying he has access to the president?
No, not only are they not comfortable with the way that he is marketing his access and the way that he appears to be pushing the bounds of these lobbying disclosure requirements, they see those as a potential ethics scandal waiting to happen. But additionally, they're not comfortable with the way that he is using his access. They say he's not actually using it on behalf of clients, but rather what he is doing is getting in Donald Trump's ear, disparaging some of the staff members, some of the top White House staff members who were folks who Corey Lewandowski at times clashed with, both during the campaign and afterwards. We're talking about Reince Priebus, the White House chief of staff. We're talking about Jared Kushner, senior advisor and Donald Trump's son-in-law. Kushner was one of the folks who pushed Lewandowski out of the campaign in June amidst this power struggle that Lewandowski had with other folks on the campaign. We understand that Lewandowski continues to harbor a grudge against Jared Kushner and has spoken disparagingly of him to both Trump and folks around him.
Speaking of Kushner, we're also learning about other potential White House ethics issues, like senior advisor Jared Kushner failing to disclose his part ownership in a real estate startup. Do these kind of situations can seem to be more growing pains for people who haven't worked in government before?
I think there's certainly an element of that, and particularly for some of these folks who come from the business world and have all these various and sundry entanglements with investors, with creditors. They fill out these personal financial disclosure forms, and they're dozens of pages long, and yet still you can find places in which they have missed something. However, I think there is a larger problem here that Trump has struggled with. He hung his hat so much on this idea that he was going to shake up Washington, and he was not going to be beholden to special interests, and he was going to be even more ethical than he alleged that some of his rivals in the presidential campaign, particularly the Republican presidential primary, were. We're seeing that it's not so easy to draw these bright lines on ethics and to disentangle some of these business relationships, and they have tripped up both Kushner and other folks in the administration.
Are we in a different era now, though? Some people might look at this and say, well, perhaps you're focusing too much on these questions for what essentially is an administration of political newcomers.
Yeah, and I think there is a sense that Donald Trump supporters don't really care about some of this stuff, and that they're willing to overlook some of these things, and some of the ways in which there appear to be, some of the same lobbying, lobbying questions and questions about access and influence that have, really characterized past administrations and been seen as problematic in the eyes of the public about the way that Washington works and the way that influence works. That said, even if his supporters are willing to overlook some of these things, there is an oversight industry in Washington that comprises the oversight committees in Congress, that also includes the Office of Government Ethics, and we see the director of that coming out and making some very strong statements about ways in which the Trump administration has failed to enforce some of these lobbying waivers about what folks can and can't do once they get into the administration with previous clients. And so these things, whether Donald Trump supporters care or not, these things are going to continue to be issues for the Trump administration that they're going to have to deal with.
All right, Ken Vogel, chief investigative reporter for Politico. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Hey, it was a pleasure.